Hello there. Welcome to episode 22 of Little Big Knits. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Selma, and I'm also known as Selma Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. If you're joining me for the first time, thank you so much for checking me out. And of course, thank you so much to those people who have been here for a little while. It's been over a year and a half about since I have been podcasting. And we have a group on Ravelry called Little Big Knits. And I generally put the show notes there. There is also a welcome thread, sort of a tell me who you are kind of thread. And there is a coupon code thread where you can find coupon codes or updates on new patterns from designers and things like that, so you can check that out. And yeah, I think that's what I have to tell you about today to start with. It is a cool day, although not so cold really, considering that it's December 1st. But as you saw in the introduction, we went from late fall into winter rather quickly. This year we got snow very early and it stayed. Which I have to say is kind of nice in the beginning of November, or in the middle of November I should say, because November is a really sort of bleak month. It's all the colors have gone from the trees basically, and the ground is just covered in dry and wet leaves, and it's dark, and so having snow is actually kind of nice because it brings a lightness and a brightness, and everybody's happy about the first snow. It's the 20th snowfall that people start being a little bit irritated by. But so anyway, we've got winter a little bit earlier than last year, that's for sure. So yeah, here we are today, December 1st, and although this is probably going to be uploaded on the 2nd. And before we get into the knitting, I just wanted to mention to you that we will be starting a knit along in January. My friend Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Craft Podcast, who I think just uploaded a podcast as well, we're on a similar schedule. So we are co-hosting a knit along together starting January 1st. It's our second Garment Galore Cal. I guess the Garment Galore Cal hashtag will be Garment Galore Cal 2019. It's starting on the 1st of January and it goes until the end of December. So it's a full year Cal. Hello. I just had breakfast and I haven't had my tea yet. Actually, my co-host is yet again my chicken mug Gertie. So this Cal will be all about knitting garments and of any kind. So, but adult garments, whips are welcome as long as it's not like just at the cast off. You've got to have, 50% to go or whatever. And we'll have different categories. We'll have the general category for sweaters, as well as a men's sweater category. So that's either it's for a man, it may be knit by a man or for a man. And we'll also have a yoked category. So we'll have 3 different categories. And then I believe Kate and I agreed that as of, I'm not exactly sure what date, we would have I probably said it last time and I'm not remembering now. I think it was June 1st. I'll have to get back to you on that. We would have a summer sweater category, so that would be kind of plant-based fibers. And somebody commented that they live in the southern hemisphere, and so for them the seasons are reversed. So I think what we decided is that we would start May 1st or June 1st, I can't remember what it was, and we would go until the end of the Cal. So that'll encompass. And even if you finish something in April, it doesn't mean that you can't post it in June. So that's also another thing to bear in mind, because it's during the Cal. So as long as it was made during the Cal, that would be fine. I'm going to have to check all these details that I'm kind of making up on the fly with Kate. Hope it's okay. Anyway, today I've got some FOs for you and not a whole lot of whips. And then I'm going to tell you about all the swatching that I have been doing because, as you could tell from the title of the podcast, I have been really struggling to figure out what to make. I am making something, but I'm just really not feeling a whole lot of mojo. And usually this happens for a day or two, but it's been going on for a couple of weeks. So I've been feeling a little bit frustrated with my knitting. So I've been trying to swatch and get inspiration. So I'll tell you a little bit about that and share a few things that I didn't share with you last episode. I don't know what planet my head was on, but I had a long list of things to share with you that I didn't share with you, so I'm going to share some of those with you as well and announce a giveaway at the end of the episode. So off we go. 5 minutes in, let's move. So in terms of finished objects, I'm wearing one, and it was after this that my mojo fell to pieces. And I don't know why. I think I know why, and I'll tell you guys about that later. This is the Nuuk by Jonna Hietala. It was in the first issue of the Line magazine, also known as the Len magazine. And this is a sweater that is a very simple top-down raglan construction in an Aran weight. And I made it out of Whistlebear Yevering Bell, I believe that's what it was called. That's right, Aran, which is a 80% mohair, 20% Wensleydale yarn that I got at Edinburgh Yarn Festival a year and a half ago. I went in 2017, and was it 2017? Yes, it was. I bought this yarn there, and I absolutely loved working with this. I think I waxed poetic about it in the last episode, about how beautiful it was to work with. This is, I would call this very sustainable mohair. It is grown, raised, the animals are raised by them as well as the Wensleydale, and then they are sheared and spun. So, and I love mohair because of its feisty nature, I would say, which we don't tend to notice a lot when it is mixed with silk, and a higher proportion of silk, like 30-70 usually. But mohair can be a very feisty, I'm going to call it feisty because it's got a lot of body and a lot of personality, and you wonder what kind of sort of drape it's going to give you afterwards, but it always settles after you've wetted and blocked it or laid it flat. The stitch definition on this yarn, I don't know if you can see that, but it's really very beautiful. So I'm going to post a picture here rather than stand up of me wearing the sweater. The one thing that was a little disappointing, and I mentioned last time, was the amount of pooling that happened, and I felt like this is a little bit of a sort of a black tiger sweater. But I'm still wearing it, and I'm really enjoying it as a layering piece. It's very warm despite having short sleeves, and I really like it. So I think last time I was almost at the bottom ribbing. I didn't have a whole lot left, and I had the ribbing on the sleeves to do, and that was really it. I still have a skein and a half left of this yarn, so I'm going to have to figure out what to do with it. I'm not sure. I might wear this on my head. It's a little on the scratchy side, but yeah, I'm going to have to figure out what to do with it, or what to make for myself or for somebody else. But it's a stunning yarn, and I don't want it to sit around for too long. So that is my first finished object. My second finished object, I don't even think, if I look at my notes, I don't even think that I don't think I had cast these on. So I had made a pair of socks out of this yarn a while ago, and after making a bunch of, or already 2 pairs of the Wood Sorrel fingerless mitts by Melissa Sheshwari, who is also known as Dandelion Girl online, I decided that I wanted to use the leftovers of the Woolen Vine blitzed yarn that I had gotten at India Untangled last year at Rhinebeck. Kristen was vending there, and I'd gotten her this skein of Enjoy the Silence, which is this beautiful speckled, sort of a paley pink beige speckled yarn. Look at all those fabulous speckles in there. And these fingerless gloves or mitts take about 40 grams of yarn in total. So they're perfect to use with leftovers from sock making, because I usually use about 50 grams perhaps for a pair of socks. Depending, actually these ones I made a little short. when I made them. So I decided to make myself a pair of fingerless gloves out of these. And so now I have two pairs. These ones, the idea was that I would keep them at the office, but between these and the purple ones, I'm finding myself wearing them a lot. I just really enjoy the warmth they give my hand, and this pattern's really nice because it doesn't lose its shape. I made Isla a pair, you'll recall last time, out of the same stitch count, the same pattern, but without the linen stitch on it, and hers have stretched and gotten looser. So I think the linen stitch really helps to keep the shape of these fingerless gloves, and they just fit really, really, really nicely. I've worn these a lot, and I've just really, really enjoyed them. So there they are again in all their glory. So many wonderful colors in there. Look at the little bits of turquoise and gold and purple and pink. I just love them. And this has basically now, I've used up the entire skein. I did a post on Instagram about it. So here is a square that I crocheted for the next crochet blanket, which I'll talk to you guys about later. And I also gave somebody a mini, and then there's still a mini left, and I've decided that I'm gonna make something scrappy like a shawl or something like that, and I think I'm going to incorporate it into that. I've been thinking about that, making it sort of well, there's been a few Advent shawls, so I'd like to do something with the different leftovers that I have. So I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm very much liking what I'm seeing of the Adventurous shawl or wrap by Amba O'Brien, so I might make that one. So yeah, so that is my second finished object that I have to share with you. There are 3 sizes in this pattern. I make the medium. There's also a larger size, so I think they would be perfectly good for somebody who had a larger hand, such as a male, and or a female. This, I would say, is sort of a mid-weight fingering, light mid-weight fingering. So if you had a thicker fingering, you might want to make the smaller size. I think it depends, because that'll have an impact on it as well. So the last thing that I am going to show you is the blanket. I'm going to put a picture in here so that you can see it on our bed, and about the size that it turned out. So as you can see, it's almost the width of our queen size bed, but not the length. So I made it with 10 squares across, and each granny square was knit on crocheted with a 3mm hook with 5 rounds of the granny square, and then there are 2 more rounds of the cream. And I attached the cream squares, like I attached squares as I went along. I didn't sew them all up at the end. So when I was on the second row of the cream, I would start attaching it on to the previous row and the previous square in the column as well. So the blanket is finished. Last time I showed it to you, I had done the 3 rows of the crochet edge of the granny square edge, but I wanted to do a scalloped edge, and I was a little bit concerned about how to add the scallop to the granny square portion. And a lovely viewer, thank you so much, suggested that I do 1 row of single crochet stitch, and then do the scalloped edge onto that. And that was a wonderful suggestion. And it turned out really, really nicely. Like, look at that. I love it. I'm so excited about this. And Isla really likes it. She had herself wrapped up in it yesterday, was playing cards with her father, and she said, "I like my blanket, Mummy." So that's great. And she can't lose it, I hope. Because she's lost a lot of hats, I have to say. Anyway, yeah, and I really enjoyed doing the crochet edge. This took far less yarn for the edging than I thought it would. I used the Sandnes Garn Sisu, the same yarn as I used for the cream here, but in a different color, obviously. And I think it used 2.5 50-gram skeins for the entire border. I can't tell you how much of the cream I used, because that's why I ran into a problem, because I just kept going and getting more. I think maybe around 13 or 14, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I'm so excited about this that I'm starting a second one. I'll just show you how I did. Maybe you'll be able to see here. So when I was attaching, say, this one, I already had that, and I already had the row below, and I would, after doing, I would sort of single crochet it into, rather than doing the two chain in between the granny squares, I would single crochet it into the previous granny square and attach it that way. And then I would do kind of a crossover at the join there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I did. Crochet lingo is not my lingo, but hopefully you get the idea if you happen to be a crocheter or wanting to make one. So as I said, I'm very excited about making a second one. We're going to be moving into whips now. So I went to Wool Time yesterday. No. So I went to Wabi Sabi, which is a local yarn store, and they carry the Sanis Garn Sisu. And so they have ordered me either a bag or 2 bags of the cream colorway so that I will have plenty. And I figure if I have leftovers, it's really not a big deal. I can either incorporate it into a sweater or make something with it. It's not the kind of thing that'll ever not be useful. But I want to make sure that I have enough so that the next blanket I can be sure to have the yarn, the quantity of yarn that I need, depending on how big I decide to make it. I mentioned to you, I think, that I already had probably about 50 squares remaining from that blanket, the first blanket, because I had expected to make it larger. So I've got those, and the last couple of weeks since I finished the blanket, because when did I finish that? It was for Isla's birthday, which was this past week, and I finished it about, well, a good week ago, if not 2 weeks ago, and I just really wanted to make more squares. So here's a little video of the squares that I have made since then, and I'll be adding to the other 50 or 60 that I have. So I've definitely got enough, and as soon as the cream yarn shows up, I will be incorporating these squares as well as the other squares and starting a new blanket. And I think I'm going to do it the same width, 10 squares across. So I was doing it row by row, so I will be starting that as well. You also saw in the little video that there were some smaller squares, because I've decided that when I have yarn left over and I can make another square, a little square, I'm going to make a little blanket for our crocheted bunny stuffy that we have, whose name is BB, that my friend Dana made for us. And so BB is going to be getting a blanket as well. And hopefully that'll be done sometime this winter as well. Probably not for Christmas because it's going to be in 4 weeks, but perhaps for February, for Valentine's Day, or for Easter, or just whenever it happens to be finished. And I figure here are some of the small squares that I've made. I figure I could probably make one with about 20 squares or so. So we'll see. I can always build on it. Yeah. So I did want to mention a couple of the yarns that I used. So I already mentioned the one that I had from Kristen's yarn, Roll and Vine Yarns. This is the Blitz base, and I think I might have misspoken on Instagram and said she's not carrying this anymore, but I think she is. Anyway, this is the Enjoy the Silence colorway that I used in my fingerless mitts. This one here is a skein, a mini skein that Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Craft had brought me last year when she came to Rhinebeck. She brought me a whole bunch, and this is the first one that I've used. And this is a singles by Fine Fish Yarns, Terry of Fine Fish Yarns, although I don't remember the colorway. But I have had enough to make a mini square for BB's blanket and a mini to give away So that's been given to somebody. And then there's this one, which is Handmaiden, Mini Maiden in the berry colorway that Lynn of the Wayward Skein gave me, who's also known as Toll Baby. It's a wonderful berry color. It's called Berry. And I love how Lynn does this. She puts this on these, I think these are meant for embroidery threads, and it works really well for that. She puts the name on there and then wraps the yarn in it. And I had enough of that as well for a little mini. These ones and this one came from, these are all Fiber Stash yarns. I don't remember the names. This was Gray Scott. One of these was New Year's Eve, and I can't remember what the other one was, but these are really wonderful. I love the colors in that. Well, all of them. And these came from Mandy, also known as Mandy Pinecone. She gave these to me at Rhinebeck this time. There wasn't quite enough of the gray, so it's going into BB's blanket, and then probably the rest will go into some Franken socks at some point. I really love my Franken socks that I've made. I've made 2 pairs, and Alejandro always comments on my Franken socks, so I am thinking about making a pair for him at some point. Also this skein, this beautiful skein here, which has got olive greens and pinks. This was dyed by Sue of the Tangle Skein CA. She was experimenting with dyeing at one point, and she gave this one to me, which is awesome, and I was able to have enough to give somebody else one. This one is from the Gumi socks by Bergère de France in the Imprime Beige. I made a pair of socks out of this, and it crochets up really nicely. And then this last one that I'll mention, because I don't always know what the minis are. I've lost track, and I'm not always very good at keeping track of things, so I won't always know. This one went into my exploration station, and this is Riverside Studios in her Salt and Pepper colorway. It's a gray with black speckles, and I really, really loved that. You can see the speckles are more on the back. So there you go. The next crochet blanket is going to start. I can't wait for the cream to show up. That seems to be where my mojo is right now. And what I'm doing is I have this bag. I had another bag, a big bag, that I keep all the minis that have been given to me. But I put the ones that seem to be calling my name into this bag, which is a sock size bag that I made a long time ago when I was making bags for my Etsy shop. And I'm going to say that I probably won't be doing that again. I don't have time. Bags take a lot of time, and I work full time. It's just not going to happen. I realized recently I made a bag for myself, and I thought, this is very time consuming if you're going to do it well. So my hat's off to all the people who do make bags, and I will enjoy making them occasionally and buying them for myself from time to time, but don't think I'm going to make them to sell. Oh, there were more squares in here that I totally forgot about. Anyway, I just put the minis that are calling my name in here and then pull them out when I'm in the mood to make. And I also have another little yellow pouch that I actually carry in my purse, so that if I'm stuck somewhere and I didn't have my knitting for some reason, I'd be able to do that. I'd be able to crochet a little bit. So that's something that obviously I've been giving my attention to, and I would have to say that is probably the thing that has brought me the most joy in my making these days. I'm also working on something that I won't show you because it's for a present, and I do have some non-knitting local friends who watch. Hello, non-knitting local friends. So I'll show it to you as a picture after Christmas. The other thing that I have been working on is a skirt. So I said that I made myself a bag recently. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen this bag. My aunt, my mother's sister, came to visit from Finland a year and a half ago, and she had brought me some marimekko remnants. And I have been going to this event, I guess, called Sewing Date Night at a local store called Fabrications. I've mentioned them before. I took the Moneta dress course there. And so they've started this thing that happens every 2 Thursdays. It's a sewing night. And so I've been going to that. I've gone to 2 so far. And I'm really enjoying that because I just can't seem to find to make the space at home. Sewing takes up a lot of space. So the first night I made this bag. This Thursday was the second one, and I started a second willow top. So I'll probably show that to you next time once it's finished. I just have the bias to put on the neck and the sleeves and do the hem, and then it's done. And so I'll finish that in 2 weeks when I go back, perhaps, and then I'm going to probably make myself another project bag with a zipper in it, just to practice zippers and to use up some beautiful fabric that I have. So what is in here? Well, it's a skirt. I had this yarn, which is a 100%, yes, I'm pretty sure it's a 100% Gotland yarn. They don't actually say if it's 100%, they just say it's 100% wool and that it's Gotland, but they don't say that it's all Gotland wool. But this is this beautiful yarn that I bought. It's by Fikolana, Gotlandsk Pelsult, that I got at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. As you can see, I'm trying to use the yarns that I got at Edinburgh Yarn Festival so that I can enjoy them. It reminds me of the trip, and I don't want them languishing. So I feel like the yarns that I get at festivals are sort of special, and I want to enjoy using them. So this is this, and I kept thinking, what am I going to do with this? I'd wanted to make a shawl, that's why I bought it. But the particular shawl that I wanted to make, I started worrying that I didn't have enough yarn and I didn't want to run out. And then one day it dawned on me that I had this yarn, which is also brown. And this is the hemp wool. I made a tunic out of this a couple of years ago. This is a 70% wool, 30% hemp, I believe. And I thought, I probably have enough to make a skirt, because you may recall that I made a gray skirt, and I'll plunk a picture in here, that I actually made for my trip to Edinburgh Yarn Festival in 2017. I wear that skirt a lot. I love it. It's like wearing a sweat skirt. You know, like it's like wearing sweatpants, but you're wearing a skirt. You have leggings and that, and a nice loose-fitting sweater, and I just really enjoy it, and it's warm. So I thought, what would happen if I put these two yarns together, and it would kind of make a heathered fabric. Oh dear, I've lost some stitches, but that's okay. I'll fix that after. So that's probably the other thing that's gotten the most of my attention, is this skirt. It doesn't look like much. It looks like the body of a sweater, and that's essentially what a skirt is. I actually have an episode called Skirt Math, so if you want to hear a little bit about the process, a gauge swatch is very important. So this one I'm doing bottom up. The last one I did top down, but as you can see, there's not a lot of this yarn left, and I was a little worried about running out, and I didn't want to run out and then be stuck. So I thought, if I go bottom up, and by the time I get to the waist, if I have to switch to another brown yarn to double strand with the Gotland, which I definitely have enough of, that's okay, because it's going to be for the waistband. And that's essentially, I'm just about at the waistband. I probably have 2 rows or so, and that's pretty much what this is going to take me to. And so I have this other brown that's a little lighter, but I'm just going to double strand with this for the waistband, because it'll have a turned over band in which I'll put an elastic. So I'm very close to the end of this project, and I am knitting this on 5mm needles, because of course you want your tension on a skirt to be fairly tight. You want the gauge and the tension to be quite tight, because you don't want it to be see-through. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I think it made a really nice, easy brown to wear. This is almost the kind of brown that would go with pretty much anything. It goes with the gray, it'll go with blues and creams and anything. And I think the All the Love sweater that I made by Hochi, that I think I showed you guys last time. Anyway, I think it'll look great with that. So I'm really looking forward to having another skirt. I'm very, very happy to be using this Gotland yarn. It's quite a scratchy yarn, I have to say. So I think it's going to be good for this, because this will it's turning out a little bit scratchy, and it'll always be worn with leggings or whatever, and it'll probably soften as well. So that is really the other thing that I've been working on, besides what feels like the millions of swatches that I have been doing. So let me tell you about those. So I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. It feels like when I finished this sweater, I just could not decide what garment to knit next. And that was okay because I needed to finish the blanket, so I focused on the blanket a lot. But usually by the time I'm finishing a sweater, I have a plan for the next sweater, and it just wasn't happening. Since then, I've been trying to figure out, like, what is it? Because honestly, it's been, you know, well over 2 weeks now that I've just had this discomfort, this inner irritation almost, of like what to knit next. And also probably a little bit of pressure that I should be making something. And interestingly, it also coincided with the time that I went back to work. I told you guys last time that I had been off, and I'd been off for 4 months, during which, you know, I was dealing with all the family stuff, and it was a busy time, but it was also a time when there was, you know, a little bit of space all the time to make, to rest, to process. So I went back to work, and that's about when my mojo hit the ground. And the other day, Mars of Hey Brown Berry sent me a tag, or actually a screenshot of somebody else's posts about it's okay not to be creative, something like that. And it was about the fact that, you know, there are times when perhaps not all your needs are met, and so, you know, your creativity can go out the window. And then I started thinking, I realized that it's been a huge adjustment the last month. Getting used to the busyness, realizing that perhaps I wasn't completely ready to hit the ground running at work. And I think that my creativity just has sort of taken a back seat as a result of that. But for me, that's been very uncomfortable because that doesn't usually happen to me. So I'm trying to relax a little bit more about it. And I think that I'm going to enjoy perhaps just making some small items. I've got a couple of Christmas things. I want to finish the present that I alluded to earlier. I also want to finish a pair of socks for Alejandro for Christmas. So that's going to take up this next couple of weeks. And in the meantime, I figure, you know, I'll figure things out. Kristen of Volenvine gave me her pattern for the sparkling cider hat very kindly. Thank you so much, Kristen. And I'm dying to cast that on. In fact, I even went to a bead shop. I bought some beads, although I suspect I'm probably going to take them back and get other ones. And they're downstairs. I won't show them to you. But I'm going to start with the most recent swatches, because the most recent swatches were last night. And some of them I just ripped out right away because I didn't like them. But I'm going to show you 2 of the swatches that I did last night to figure out what to use for the sparkling cider hat. This is a pattern that she recently came out with. It's a lovely pattern with some beading in it. I have never beaded, in fact, and I would like to. So I watched her little tutorial on adding beads to knitted garments or knitted items, and I thought, okay, I can do that. So I'm going to have to look for a beading crochet hook as well. But in the meantime, I decided to swatch, and I took out a bunch of yarns and I put them together, and this is what I came up with. I don't know if I'm going to end up with either of these, but this is what I started with. So this yarn is the Wollmeise lace yarn in the Mauseschwanz colorway that I used for my ranunculus. But I used it with a sort of a brownie mohair, so it got to a very sort of brownie mauve. Whereas here I paired it with this beautiful mohair. Darn it, where is the paper? Here it is. This is by Volenvine Yarns in her mohair base, and it is her Ghost Lace, and it's in the Thaw colorway, and I thought, oh, those look stunning together. And it is lovely. It's actually really beautiful. It's really beautiful, but I'm just not 100% sure that this is the hat that I want. I'm trying to decide, but it's really a beautiful combination. And the beads that I got would go very much with that. I think what I'm struggling with is that I wanted it to be a little bit more purple to replace the purple hat that went missing. You may recall I showed a beautiful purple Ricka hat last year at one point, if you happen to have a really good memory and have been around for a while. I had a wonderful purple Ricka hat that I had made myself with some beautiful alpaca that I'd gotten at Rhinebeck, and Isla started wearing it and lost it. So here's a picture of her wearing it. I loved this hat, and I love this picture as well. So that was like a really royal purple, and this is really kind of more of a gray purple. So I'm a little bit undecided. And so because I was undecided, I mean, I really love this combination. I'm just not sure I want to make the hat in this. If you have a strong opinion, let me know. I'll welcome opinions. So I decided to try another combination. This purple yarn was given to me by Erin. She had sent us some prizes, and I chose this skein for myself amongst what she had sent. And she has the Holland Handmade Company. You may know her for her bags too. She used to make beautiful bags, which I don't think she's making anymore, and I really, really am sorry that I never got one. She gave this yarn to me, and it's called Selma Loves Purple. And it's a BFL nylon base that she had gotten at EYF. And it's just a lovely, you know, there's kind of a lilac and a darker purpley color. And I paired it with this mohair that is, I think it's Drops, a Drops mohair last night. And this is what I got as a combination. And I really like that too. So I don't know. I tried probably 5 other combinations last night and just ripped them out right away. 2 rows in, I just didn't like them. These were the 2 that I kept going on, and I have to decide. Got an opinion? Anyway, that's some swatching, and that I definitely want that to become the hat, because I think that I'm going to be casting on the sparkling cider as my Christmas Eve cast on, and in a lovely project bag, and that's going to be it. Now I got to be honest, Christmas Eve is when we celebrate Christmas, so I might be pooped by the time the celebrations are over, and if not, it'll be on the 25th in the morning. What else? I'm going to go right back to the very beginning. So when I first started swatching, what did I swatch with? I had shown this to you last time because I had gotten this beautiful Legacy Fiber Arts mohair at their cloud base at, what was it called now? Needles Up, right? And I wanted to pair it with this blend number 1 by Isolde Teague, which is a little bit of a different gray. And I got all excited about that, and I thought, ooh, yeah, I want a gray ranunculus. But then when I started swatching, I actually really like how it came out. It's beautiful, beautiful sort of silver lace color. It's really gorgeous, but it just wasn't speaking ranunculus language to me. It just wasn't. It's a little bit too dense. So, and then I thought, well, did I want to make another nuke? And I wasn't sure about that. So because I was undecided, I thought, okay, well, let's try the next thing. The next thing that I wanted to make was, or that I've been thinking about making, is the Granito by Joji Locatelli. And I actually bought this yarn specifically for it. It is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful yarn. I really love this, and I actually loved swatching with it and started looking on their site for the other colorways that they have. This is a wool, silk, and linen blend. 40% wool, 35 mulberry silk, and 25 linen. It's by Americo, Americo used to have a store in Toronto on Queen Street West, but they have since closed their storefront. They have an online presence and they do sell in some shops. And I had gotten this at Twist from, oh darn, a shop that had a stand at Twist, not this summer, but the previous summer. So I wanted to make the granito and I started swatching with it. And then somehow it just wasn't speaking granito language to me. I think I know what I want to make. I think I want to make a cardigan by Veera Välimäki. I'll post the picture here. But the texture, it's got such a beautiful texture. And there it is. So it's got lovely, the linen comes through and creates this kind of heathered effect. But I don't think I want it to be a sweater in the end. I think I want a cardigan. And partly, I have been really realizing that I need cardigans in my wardrobe. I have a lot of sweaters. In fact, my closet's a little full of knitted sweaters. But in there aren't that many cardigans. And I was actually going to share my cardigan woes with you today, but I think I'll share the swatches with you, and perhaps next time I'll share my cardigan woes. Or just not so much woes, but I feel like I haven't made that many cardigans, and the cardigans that I have made have not all been great successes. Like, they're okay, but they're not cardigans that I want to put on every day, or cardigans that just go with absolutely everything. So I feel like I could use a few cardigans that are different colors that would go with different things. So that's going to be a bit of a focus for me in 2019. So I started thinking that perhaps this was better used for a cardigan than for a sweater. The other thing that I swatched with, and I realized I don't have, oh I do, I didn't show this to you last time, but this came with Kate from from Ireland when she came in October. I had ordered this off of the Isolde Teague site at isolde.com. It's the Hillis Vogue Solier base. Let's see if I can. Here is the tag. Hillis Vogue is a Norwegian yarn, and I just loved the color. And I bought it because I wanted to make probably the Poet by Sari Nordlund from the latest, I think it was the latest Line magazine. And if I don't make that, then I'll be making the Parisian Dreams by Mina Philip. It is a beautiful, beautiful color. Kind of a heathered taupe, heathered mauve rather. You can see that there's black going throughout the threads as well. It's a little bit rough. I was a little surprised by the texture of this yarn. So, and I'm undecided about whether this is going to become the Parisian Dreams or the Poet sweater. One or the other. And lastly, of the swatches that I'm going to show you, I swatched with this gigantic cone of Briggs & Little Sport. I got this for a crazy good price at a warehouse sale at a local store called Wool Time. I think I paid $15 for this, and there's a good kilo of yarn in here. So I started swatching because I thought I would make the Girlfriend cardigan by Ankestrich. And I think I will, but I have to say, when I first started swatching, there are different sections with different needle sizes. I was a little shocked by how rough this was as well. And I just wasn't 100% sure how I felt about it. But I think I've grown accustomed to it, and I think for a cardigan that's okay. But if you have worked with any of these yarns, like the Hillis Vogue, for example, or the Briggs & Little, do you have experience with them softening up with time? I'm curious to know how this will, like, what will happen. And I didn't bind this off, but I think I will, and I think I'll wash it a little bit and see what happens to it, because I'm curious. So I'm looking at a sea of swatches. There's been a lot of swatching, and I just don't really know where I'm going to go in terms of my making. So let's see what happens the next time I podcast. So lastly, I wanted to mention some patterns that I have received recently by lovely designers, some of which will also become part of a giveaway at the end of this episode, or for next time, I should say. So the first one that was given to me actually quite a while ago, and I kept putting it on my list and then somehow completely missing it. My notes are not the neatest. They're kind of all over the place. So you can see how I can miss things. So the first one's called Ripples and Stones, and it's by, oh dear, Marianne, I can't remember your last name, Huba? I'll have to put it down on the down bar. And she's also known as Aspen and Spruce and is a member of our group. And thank you, Marianne, for this lovely, lovely poncho. It's a really easy, lovely piece that I think uses about 3 skeins of fingering, if I remember correctly, because I remember going into my stash looking for yarns for it. So that is a lovely one. The next one that I received is called Penny Pearls by Victoria Saganovic, which is this lovely yoked sweater with sort of pearl ridges on it as well. So it just looks like such an easy and lovely yoked sweater to make. And the other one is, I already mentioned, the Sparkling Cider by Kristen Wollenvine, which is a lovely hat with beads on it that is double-stranded with a fingering weight and mohair that I'll be casting on for my Christmas Eve knits. And lastly, but definitely not least, is a 2-pattern collection that was given to me by Megan Nodecker, who has designed these collections with Kate Ann Williams. They're also known as Pip and Pin, and the first one is called This Must Be the Place, and as you can see from the cover, her sweater, which is quite well known, called Mount Pleasant, is on the cover of it, and I really like this. I was so excited when I saw it. And this collection is a lot about garments, although I think, if I remember, there was a shawl in there as well. So it's a lovely collection, as well as their other collection called Strand, which is about mixing yarns for custom knits. So it's accessories, and a lot of them are sort of more bulky things where you've used different strands of things, which is a great way of destashing, for example, the little bits that we have left and we don't know what to do with. So thank you so much, Megan, for those two. So those 2 collections by Megan Nodecker and Kate Ann Williams, and the pattern by Kristen, the Sparkling Cider hat, they were all offered up as giveaways as well. So thank you very much to the 3 of you. So basically, what I'd like you to do, if you're going to comment below anyway, then your comment will be an entry. If you weren't thinking of commenting, but you would like to enter for these, I would just like you to tell me what you're working on right now. If it's only one thing, or if there are a couple of things on the go, tell me what you're working on. I'd love to know what you're doing. Perhaps you're making things for the season, or just for yourself, or for your pets, or who knows what. So leave a comment below, and basically every comment will be an entry. And next time I podcast, which I hope will be between Christmas and New Year's, I'll be able to draw for those, and it'll be like a Christmas present. And again, thank you very much for all these lovely, lovely designs. I just think it's wonderful how people are designing and they're getting known by different means. You know, once upon a time, to get known as a designer, as an indie maker of any kind, everything had to be very official, publications and so forth. And today there's so much self-publication and things like social media, which make a huge difference. And I think it's wonderful that it gives creative people an easy outlet to, you know, to support their making, essentially. So yeah, I feel always when I finish the podcast like it's been a whirlwind. Hopefully it hasn't felt like that. People say that I talk slowly, and I feel like I'm talking so fast. So anyway, I'll leave you with all of those things. As I said, I'll hope to podcast between Christmas and New Year's. Definitely not before that, because we are going to be starting, well, there's Christmas shopping to do, but there's Christmas decorating and Christmas baking and Christmas making. We celebrate on the 24th, and we tend to make very sort of traditional Finnish dishes that are also mixed with some other traditions as well. So I'll be making some of the typical casseroles that we make, which are, there's a potato casserole, there's a carrot casserole, there's a turnip casserole. There are spoon cookies. If you were around last Christmas, I might have mentioned spoon cookies, and a couple of people knew what they were or went and looked for the recipes. Epicurious has a great spoon cookie recipe. It's a fabulous, fabulous cookie. So I strongly suggest you try it, although a little bit labor intensive. We'll also be making a gingerbread house from scratch. That's a tradition that we have in our house. We didn't do it last year because the kids and Alejandro were going to Uruguay, and I stayed behind with my mom. So this year we're going to be back on our tradition of making it using a recipe from the 60s that my mother has been using since then, and with wax paper cutouts for the shapes of the house, and then we put the pieces together with burnt sugar and decorate with royal icing and candies and so forth. And it's a little different every year. Of course, there was the year that there were dinosaurs all over it because my son was smaller and put dinosaurs on it, or farm animals. And anyway, it's always a bit of a shack. It looks like a shack, really. And then what we do is we wrap it in cellophane paper and tie it with a red bow, and we keep it until January 6th. And January 6th, we break it and eat it. So I'm hoping to have a little gathering that day, with coffee and tea and liqueurs, and celebrate the Day of the Kings, as they call it in Spanish, El Día de los Reyes, or Epiphany. So yeah, so there's a lot to do, and our house is not decorated yet, but I am hoping to start getting on that this weekend and get the advent calendars out and start filling them quickly. I got myself a David's Tea advent calendar this year, so I'll be having my first tea this afternoon after I have finished my morning tea, which is cold by now. Gertie, you didn't keep it warm. Anyway, yeah, we just celebrated Isla's birthday, to which, you know, I gave her the blanket, and that was great. And today, actually, she has her party with her friends, with 4 of her friends who are coming over, and that is going to be really nice and laid back, actually. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I think that's really about it. It's been, as I said earlier, a time about getting used to being back at work and being back in the crazy routine of full-time work and family life. But I'm really also enjoying being back in that routine. And hopefully my mojo will come back at some point. And so I'll have something new and exciting to show you next time. Let's see what it is, because it's as much a secret to me as it is to you. Anyway, take care. I hope you've enjoyed a cup of something and some making time with me today. And I look forward to seeing you again. It won't be before Christmas, so I'll wish you a Merry Christmas if you celebrate. And happy holidays to everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.